Hey guys, Grab John coming out to another Watcher of Realms video. All right, so I'm sitting down. I made a video just a little bit ago. As you can see, it's still outfit. Moving on, I was trying to catch up on everything, right? Because when I'm on the road, it's really hard to just kind of break up that work life slash content creator lifestyle. It's hard, we work full time job and then also doing this content as well as another channel and then another channel that I got to start up per sponsorship. Things are a little busy, right? So I was going through and I was like, you know what have I missed through the past weeks? I've kind of been playing a little bit passively, just trying to get things done. I did play the event. I love the Immortal Codex. I was just kind of plugging away at that, and I was like, oh man, I should really see what changes are coming. What are we doing? I saw that new event drop today. So as I was scrolling, I came across the message from Watcher of Realms on Facebook. As you can see, this is my Facebook profile pulled up here. I missed this. As you can see here, I did like it. If you like it, that means you are, supporting neither. However, we're going to talk about it in this video. The premise is, in terms of strategy, should defenders pursue higher HP or strengthen their defense? We're going to break this down because this is something that we've dealt with in almost every game out there. And there are some loaded questions. There's some kits you got to read and understand and know what's better. There's gear, how it all plays into effect. There's a lot of things that really go into this. And it's not necessarily higher HP is the answer. It's not necessarily higher defense is the answer. And I just want to talk about it briefly on what my experience has been, especially with all the other games that I've played, as well as what I've experienced in Watcher of Realms, because now that I've really dug into this game a lot more, I fairly have a good idea of what I'm doing. So let's talk about it and break it down so that way you guys can understand my viewpoints and see if that helps you guys, or if you agree or don't agree. If you don't agree, leave a comment down below. If you do agree, let me know. I appreciate you guys. All right, so the topic of discussion, the ultimate question here is, do you build a tank, so to speak, a defender, right? Like a defender right here. Do you build them with all HP, all defense, or are you going to make them a balls to the walls attack unit? So let's break it down so that way you guys can kind of see the different strategies that can go into this. Because this is not a one for one type of question or answer, right? Every one of these defenders has a different thing that they do. Not all of them need to be built the same. Actually, almost, it's about 50-50 here. Need to be built in a certain way, right? And actually, if we pull up, let me pull up the gallery. That's probably the better way to pull it up. And then I'll show you my builds afterwards. Can I do just sorting by, I don't use the gallery a whole lot. There we go, fighters, defenders, here we go. We're gonna leave it up like this, and that way I can walk it through it a little easier, and then we'll show you my characters that I had built. So the reason why we're gonna start by saying that, hey, defense and HP aren't necessarily the golden standards for what you need on the champion is fairly simple. One, not every defender is a defender. Their job not every time is to suck up the damage and not let anyone by. There are some that are built more for attack. Obviously there is some defense that goes on, but they are kind of glass cannons, right? For example, Captain Reeve, his ability here, he does a lot of AoE type damage, stuns, slows, he does a lot of CC when attacking an enemy target under control, restore 3% of max HP, so he self-heals. It's just one of those situations where, and if you got Razak, right, now this makes a, gold increases. I forgot about that. I do like that as well. But he's a really, really good defender, but you build him in an attack style, right? You build him with attack, so that way his abilities do a lot of damage, even though he's a defender, right? So would you want to build him as straight up defense, straight up offense, kind of mixture of both? There is some give and take there, right? Because at the end of the day, when you look at the champion, you got to see, okay, how do they block? They block up to 3 champions. So you probably could use them in a defender slot. That's the trademark of the defender, right? Which means enemies aren't going to walk past them. So they will stop enemies in their path. And that can be good or bad. That could be good if you need to protect your crystal and they are your defender. It could be bad if you're just saying your glass cannon And instead of just walking through and they take a couple of hits while they're walking through and your healer keeps them healed up, which is definitely a strategy, right? Instead, they're going to stack up, and that then can kill your defender. So there's different aspects with defending that need to be taken into consideration when you go to build these champions, because other champions, like for example, what's a good one to talk about here? King Hars, I think he's got a really, really good one for shields. Yeah, so increase shield by 35%. His ability here is periodically grants all faction allies a shield equal to 30% of their max HP, and all other allies a shield equal to 15% of their max HP. The defense of shielded faction allies is increased by, which is really, really good, 20% there. But what I'm trying to get at here is the fact that the shield is by max HP, right? So for example, King Hars' shield that he gets, if he has more HP, the bigger his shield. The bigger his shield, the more damage he can absorb. With that being said, you can build him totally different. So in this case, you don't really care about his damage, so to speak. What you're like, even though he does have an AoE, right? So he could do some damage with that AoE with the freeze, which is huge. But when you look at his kit and you really break it down, the big takeaway here is one, every time receiving a shield, increase the shield strength by 35%, which is huge, especially if it's going to be a shield generated by max HP, or if it's an over shield by, say, Vortex, which is another perfect pairing with him. HP is going to scale it. It's going to scale it so high to where it's going to make a big difference in what they can do. Notice that it's defensive and shield here. So his shield kind of works like his defense, so to speak, but you still want to kind of try to keep them balanced, because no matter what you do to any of these champions, defense isn't going to negate all your damage. It will never negate all your damage. It's going to, there's going to be a ratio that you want to hit where your HP to defense makes a difference. However, at a certain point, your defense just falls off on return on investment, whereas your HP just keeps going up. And one point to that could even be, okay, once you hit, like, say, a good threshold of defense, and you keep going your attack, that means you're still going to be mitigating a lot of damage from the enemy, but it's going to allow you to take a little bit more of those hits. So instead of taking, let's say, 3 hits to die, you up your defense up by a couple of thousand, and now you're sitting around 4K, 5K, which seems to be a really, really solid defense number. Now you can take 6, 7 hits and your healer can back heal you, or you can rely on a kit ability, right? Like King Hars, he's got his shields. What's another really, really good one that does? Baron, super. He's awesome for an epic for a defender. He's super hard to beat even, but notice that, like, unyielding, right, will not die from damage taken, so he will not die when that's getting procced. He does grants a shield that can absorb damage. When it gets broken, it deals AoE damage 1 time. But then when you look at his awakening here at the very end, recovers 50% HP at the end of a mortal restoration. So he self-regens himself, right? So for him, you want to just make sure he gets a crap ton of shields and HP, because it's going to be, he's going to absorb 70% of his max HP. So the higher you stack him with HP, the more he can absorb. And then when it goes away, right, like when his shield dissipates, basically, he recovers HP. So right there, and there, the ghost gets longer there, and yeah, attack and defense gets up by 15%. So awakening him does a lot for you, because now you've got a natural boost in your defense. He self-heals now, and everything's going to scale off HP. So HP is great. So as you're listening to this, you're probably like, oh man, HP is the way to go. To a certain point. The problem is it's not going to necessarily make it the best in the world for you. It does help you. It does help you a lot. But there are ones that are more defensive based, right? Like for example, Brokir. Brokir is a very, very good champion to have. Once again, he does his freeze. And his shield is max HP, which I usually build him mostly HP, but I do also pair him with at least 1 defensive piece of gear because of the fact that he will just basically just sit there. He'll keep freezing them all, and mitigating the damage works the best. When we talk about using him, for me on my strat, what I do is I use him in the artifact trade, right? I don't have my Silas built in a way to where I can't use him, so I use I'm actually using King Hars here, but I used Brokir to actually break it. And what I had noticed is that I just had to beef up his defense a little bit, and boom, he was able to do all of the mitigation that I wanted. Like, as soon as I broke like the 4,500, 5K mark, like I was saying, it was like return on investment gone. And now with this build, I've tried 7K and like 60K HP, and I'm not mitigating more damage. I do notice that I'm not as squishy, so to speak, but let's say before I was taking 5 hits before dying, I upped it by a couple thousand, and I took 6 hits. Like, the return on investment wasn't there. Whereas when I went to HP, I could take 5 hits and then I could take another, like, say 9 or 10 hits. And in that case, that really made my champion very strong. So there's that ratio. With Brokir, it felt like it was basically like a 2-to-1 type ratio, where my HP to defense here, as you can see, about 2-to-1. They're not fully maxed out gear. I should really max them out too, just for all ultimate potential. But my defenders are kind of the last ones that I really focus on, even though they're kind of the backbone, I'm not gonna lie. But there's other defenders, right? Like, technically, Constance, she's a defender. And if you look at her, sure, she's a defender. She's technically healer, right? Technically healer. I just totally misspoke that. I'm just thinking about fighters in general. Different story. Dumb. Oh no, she technically is. She's labeled as a defender. She's a healer. That's funny. Okay, so I was right. I was thinking correctly. But she's a healer. You're not building her for defense. Okay. What you're going to utilize on her is her healing, and you're going to use her ultimate. Where's her ultimate? There it is. It would have been better if I just would have went to my build. Inspiration, that's what you're using her for. You're using her for a ground inspiration. You're not going to be blocking a bunch of stuff. Like, yes, sure, when she is blocking, she's going to do damage. She does attack-based healing. She's going to be, inspiration is going to scale off attack as well. Healing on the ground units by 20%. Additionally, her basic attack that heals allies will also apply self-healing, right, at the healing multiplier. And when being healed, the hero restores 3% rage. This effect can be triggered every 2 seconds. So she's also like a rage battery. Like, her kit alone synergizes on attack. So if you were to build her, say, HP and defense, like a defender, what's she gonna do for you? Nothing. At that point, if you build her HP and defense, her inspiration's useless because she doesn't have an attack. Attack-based healing, that's useless, right? Her A1 goes out the window. She just becomes a standard champion. Like, one hit enemy at 100% damage is pretty much par of the course for anyone, right? And same thing with like healing. Healing in general goes down because healing is based off attack. So you don't want to build that defender with HP and defense. You want to scale attack. Now, there are some caveats to that, and that's where I want to get into a little bit on gear, because I feel like I don't want to drag this out too far, but I do want to note a couple of quick little things, right? So, for example, Constance, yeah, you want her to be attack, right? You want attack for her. However, you have a couple options here. So, one, healing effect, healing attack, right? So if I were to get the attack speed, that'd be pretty good on her. Getting the attack boots here, like, using the Calamity set, that would be very helpful as well. But also, even then, the Immortal set for HP defense, that's okay because that adds a little life and longevity, especially if, let's say, you're not going to just mitigate damage by 15%. This is a very common set on defenders. It's not a must-have set. You could go with this one. Guardians is definitely recommended. However, Glacier is great too. So gain an attack bonus equal to 6% of max HP when deployed. So think about this. So she needs attack. She's also a defender, right? So you want to be a little squish, you don't want her to be super squishy. You don't want to glass cannon her because crit rate ain't what you're looking for. Crit damage, not what you're looking for. You're looking for attack percent and some HP, attack speed, rage regen, right? Those are pretty much all you're really looking for on this build. So if you go ahead and you pop in the Glacier set, what's going to happen is as you scale a little bit of HP, because they're a defender, their HP scales pretty decent. It's not terrible. Her base HP is decent. Gear wise, like obviously I don't have any attack or HP modifying percent gear. Decent modifier addition to it. Now 32k is a little squishy, like 40, 50k would be really nice there, but it is what it is. But notice that once again, defense right around 5K mark. That seems to be the sweet spot. Like it's literally like as long as they're around there, that's all you really need, honestly. But if I were to switch her out and put her in straight up Glacier, I could modify her attack by more, which then would in turn give me more heals. It would also in turn give me more inspiration. That right there can make a big difference in a fight. Especially if you are trying to go under the premise, let's say, of like that Facebook post that it says, hey, is HP or defense better? It really is about the synergy of the champion, of the hero that you're trying to build. Because if you aren't synergizing them with their kit, what good are they? Like they're not any good if you don't synergize them. But there's other ones which that get a little confusing, right? Like Cyrus. I have Cyrus. I love this character. I hate minions. I don't like minion builds in Path of Exile or any other game out there. So I hate it when champions have minions. I love this dude's minions. I love them. They're great. He's AoE. He's summoned one skeleton fighter within 2 tiles, increase their and the hero's damage by 100% and attack speed for 60 seconds by 60 for 10 seconds, which is huge. His passive incoming damage will be absorbed by the hero's summons. When the hero receives fatal damage, one of the summons will die or will be sacrificed to resist the damage. He always has a minion out, unless he goes to take a fatal hit and then they die, right? So he's also getting his damage mitigated by his minions. So does that mean he needs to be as tanky when he's got skeletons that are always out there, right? Like immediately summons one skeleton warrior within 2 tiles ahead when deployed, right? That's just his talent. However, as he keeps going, when HP of the hero summon is 50%, when the HP of the hero's summon is below it 50%, increases attack speed by 60 and damage by 30%. So as he loses, HP on a skeleton does more damage. That overall gives him a crap ton more damage. Also, reduces skill cost, which is huge. What's the other portion? There's one other notable that I wanted to talk about with him. Just the overall in general. So if you notice the time frame at which his abilities restart and reset, super cheap. He's getting it constantly, which means constantly having a skeleton. His damage overall is massive. He is a defender, sure. He can block up to 3 people. But with these types of stats, like, is that really what you want to do? Like, hold on. How do I make it say level 6? There it is, max level. There we go. But right there, like you could see, okay, his defense is almost there. He needs another 1,000 defense. HP is already at almost 30K, which is pretty much what we just had Constance at. She works well, right? An attack, decent attack at 4,200 or 4,300 for a defender. So you definitely want him to do damage, and I can definitely attest to that type of a build. Maybe I should do a guide on him, actually, now that I think about it. I have Cyrus. I absolutely love him. He kills it out there, guys. I went straight up, glass cannon, attack. Now, I would like to get him out of this stupid curse set. I'm not a huge fan of curse set. If I'm being transparent, I like the Great Glacier set because this name old battle of like HP versus attack, what makes the best decision here? Like, I do know survivability is something that is paramount for any champion for wanting to beat and win any game. You gotta be able to survive. But I also know that you need the DPS. So having this type of a set here and converting max HP, because especially like 6%, right? Start adding that up with, what is that, 52,000? So if we go 6% at 52,000, what is that? Let's pull up the calculator really quickly here. So if we go, so let's say we had 52,629, right? That's how much we had. Multiply that by 6%, that would give us an increase of 3,150. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot, especially when you turn around and you look at, okay, what's the artifacts, what's this, that, and the other. Now, one thing I will say, I think I just did that math wrong, because I don't think it's your total. I do think it's basic attributes that this actually modifies on, which would be a lot less, because that seems way too broken, right? So 28299 multiplied by 6%. I think that's where it's actually getting calculated from. But even then, that's 1,600, that's 1,700. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot of damage that's getting applied from the set. That makes it, so when you're talking about doing extra damage, like that just boom, like it's huge. It's a lot of extra damage. It's a lot of passive things that you can get. Whereas, like, for example, increased damage by 6%. How's that scaled? Does this make sense to that's better than this? So sets make a big difference too, because normally with a defender, like I was saying, you're gonna pick the Guardian set, or you're gonna pick what's the other one? There's another set. Actually, I don't think I have any of the pieces of it. Oh, it's because it was an older set. You get like lower levels, you're never gonna get anything good out of it. But Guardian is one of the most sought after for defenders, when really you could use that one or Glacier depending on the approach that you want to take. Because some champions you could stack a lot of HP and use that ability and then get the attack that you wanted as well. So there is that option when trying to build these champions. There's a lot of different options out there. This actually just made me think of, I really need to do a guide video on him and build him the 2 or 3 different ways to kind of show how it can work out. But yeah, this is kind of my breakdown of HP and defense when it comes to defenders. Basically just stating overall, like, hey, you don't necessarily have to have HP and defense that make the major difference. However, that is helpful, but there is a cap on at what point does defense fall off and no longer be helpful, and when HP takes over as being the more superior stat, because it allows you more flexibility and maneuverability, so to speak, in a team composition. By paying attention to that synergy of champion's kits, you can really know right off the bat how you should be building these champions, where they're going to shine at, just by reading their kits. That's all you got to do. Just simply see what they're going to excel at and work with it. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Leave a comment down below. What do you feel like? Where are you at? Are you going defense? Are you going on HP? What are you doing? Love to hear from it. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. See you guys in the next one. Peace.